My name is Chad Kuhn. I am the manager here at East Coast Martial Arts. First degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, also a first degree black belt in our martial arts program. I've been training Jiu-Jitsu for 20 years this month in October. Started karate back in the early 80s. Been on the mats a long time. So I got started at East Coast in 2004. I had been looking for like a Jiu-Jitsu gym, or actually just to get back into martial arts. And I found like a Taekwondo gym that I went and did a couple free classes, and I'm like, this isn't it. I've done that and was just looking for something new. And like I said, I was watching the UFC a lot. And I always tell people like this little dude in pajamas was beating these karate guys or these strikers, right? And that's what I did growing up. I did karate, and I'm like, what? I don't understand. So I wanted to find Jiu-Jitsu. And I can remember it very vividly. I was at Borders Bookstore, which is Books A Million now, looking at like a grappling magazine or some type of fight magazine. And the guy behind me is like, hey, do you train or do you do that? And I'm like, no, I don't know where to go. And he's like, try East Coast. So I don't know, probably looked them up in the phone book at that time, right? And found East Coast and went for a free class. And back then it was no-gi once a week. And I always tell people by no-gi, it could have been wall drills or Thai clinch work. It was very MMA based. Mr. Hyman coached some local fighters, and that's what he kind of did. And I can remember showing up to my first, I kind of wish I had a picture of this, but I'm glad I don't. My first class was like gym shorts. I actually bought wrestling shoes because I thought I needed wrestling shoes for some reason. But it was pretty hardcore then. I mean, like I said, it was once a week, and we would do what, Mr. Hyman would go to California and train with the Machados, and I think maybe YouTube was kind of getting big then, so you'd look some stuff up, and you really had to seek out knowledge at that point, which Mr. Hyman was very good at telling this. He would go to seminars, right? So that made me I went to a lot of seminars back then to get that knowledge and find some higher ranks. And we've come a long way from once a week no-gi to, I don't even know how many classes we have a week, 12 or 13 now, different options, morning, noon, and night. I'd say we've evolved and progressed very well over the years. So how I got started teaching in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, my good friend at the time, Mike Broom, was our instructor here. He was a blue belt in Jiu-Jitsu. And that's kind of what you saw then, was blue belts teaching, right? So to have a blue belt was awesome. Well, he had some things come up where he couldn't teach anymore. So we had just started our gi program, which we thought was very important to Jiu-Jitsu. And he asked Mr. Hyman if I could take over teaching the gi program. I was a 2-stripe white belt. And he agreed, and we kind of went from there. And that started my teaching. And I would just teach what I would watch. And luckily at that time, we didn't have a lot of info out there. Now it's got to be overwhelming coming in as a white belt, somebody new. And then there's all this knowledge. What do I watch? Instagram, YouTube, Reels, TikTok. Yeah, that just kind of lit my fire for teaching, and I just kind of went through the ranks. And luckily I had a lot of good people around me too. Mr. Hyman was very knowledgeable. I trained with Dave Miller. He was a purple belt in Jiu-Jitsu at the time. He was from Canton. That's who my instructor, Mike Broom at the time, trained with. But I would drive down to his house at least 2 to 3 days a week, and he would charge us $5 a class to do Jiu-Jitsu in his basement. It was, if there was ever a time where I could take people back to, it would be that basement, just to hang out and do Jiu-Jitsu, right?
This producer, Frankie Wahoo.
Raise your guard up, put this arm across. Posture's pretty much broke. Flat. All right. The 615 group is special for more ways than one. Number one, it's not an easy
It's not an easy hobby, it's not an easy sport. And to wake up out of your warm bed when it's still dark out and your family's still sleeping before you eat or do anything, and then come in here and train a combat sport in a 5-pound outfit or with spandex on is very difficult but extremely rewarding. And it takes a special group and a special person to have that level of commitment and that level of desire to come in here. Some from distance. Not everybody lives 2 minutes away, so it involves a drive as well, and then a drive back home. And then often people go to work after this, so it's a very unique and special group just from explanation and understanding, you know. Brad Scarborough, been training, this is my 18th year, maybe even 19th, almost 20 years. Got my black belt about 2.5 years ago, so 2022, August of 2022. It was a goal that you feel like you've worked towards your entire training journey, and then when you arrive at that point of getting your black belt, you feel new again, like you're starting at square one, but in a good way. I mean, the legacy is irreplaceable. I mean, it's become woven into the fabric, I think, of who I am in my life. It's a place that I always return to through even the most difficult highs or lows of my life. I've always found serenity, believe it or not, in these mats, but most importantly is unity. Mr. Hyman taught me unity in a way that I'll never forget, and it's been part of my life ever since the day that I truly understood what he was about, and he was about bringing people together, and that's what East Coast Legacy is. It's about bringing people together. It's about sharing not just a love for sport and athleticism and all the other things that jiu-jitsu brings, but life in general.
So we offer a wide range of different things here at East Coast. You'll hear a lot of people say our karate program. I feel karate is kind of a generic term anymore. We have a martial arts program. Over the years, it's evolved from a Shotokan base, very traditional, to what we have now, and that was all Mr. Hyman's doing. He was always trying to get rid of what wasn't functional and maybe add in what was. So our karate program now has Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in it. It has some kickboxing and Thai boxing in it. It has functional self-defense in it. I mean, we do have some traditional things in it. We have some forms and a little bit of katas here and there. What is the same is the traditional values of it. When you walk in here, the students say yes sir, no sir. They bow in and off the mats. They always address everyone with respect. They bow when they come in. So we always say it's traditional values, but it's a progressive program. We have kickboxing in the evenings. It's a blend of like some Dutch sparring and Thai boxing. We have MMA Fit, which is our fitness program, functional fitness, kettlebells, med balls, body weight stuff. So we have that, and then we have our Little Leaders program, kind of where our martial arts starts. It's for 3 to 5 year olds. It's only a half-hour class, and honestly, it's just getting some structure to the kids at that age. To see those kids go from 3 and 4 years old and then move up to our youth program is awesome to see that growth. All right, so martial arts, what does martial arts mean to me? It's one that's kind of hard to put your finger on what it is, because it's been part of my life for so long. I think it means, it truly is a way of life, right? How you live your life. Martial arts is. And it's awesome learning self-defense and being able to protect yourself and being in shape. But I think more than anything of that is the friends that I've met and the camaraderie that we have there. Some of the best times of jiu-jitsu are after we've cleaned up at the end of the night and we're all talking, or we're headed to a tournament. I think those are the fun times, right? I mean, we have fun in class. We learn cool stuff and learn how to choke each other and all of that. And that does bring us closer, right? But I think honestly, it's just the friends that I've met, and to say that, I've been here 20 years. Pete, our other black belt's like 17. To say that I've probably seen Pete at least once a week for the last 17 years is crazy, right? Somebody that's not in your family, but obviously is family to you. We have a shirt that says East Coast, we are family, and I truly believe that. So talk about Mr. Hyman a little bit more, and you'll hear me always say Mr. Hyman, just from my traditional background in martial arts. He would tell me, just call me Steve, and I was like, no, that doesn't sound right to me. So it was always Mr. Hyman, and he would call me and I would say, hey, how's it going, sir? It was always that respect with him, you know? So yeah, like I said, he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in 2011, somewhere around there. Back when Mr. Hyman was diagnosed, I tried to think of what we could do just to raise awareness, and I had this idea of doing this seminar and getting a bunch of black belt friends to come in and teach. And that money we would donate to whatever organization we chose. So that first one was like 2012, I think. And last month we just did our 13th annual one. So it's become a thing every year, getting bigger and bigger. I get local sponsors. We put them on t-shirts. I get companies from the jiu-jitsu community to donate. We have a raffle. And like when I say we've had a who's who of jiu-jitsu people, I mean, it's no lie. I mean, you can look at our list from world champions to ADCC gold medalists to just local black belts that want to share their knowledge. Like that first one was just literally friends that I knew from Toledo and Columbus and Cleveland that knew Mr. Hyman that wanted to come down. I think that first one we had 5 or 6 black belts teach that day. And I think numbers-wise, people-wise, it was our biggest. We had like 60 or 70 people there. But I think our biggest one was a couple years ago. We had donated $10,000. In the last couple years, I don't know what it's been, 3-4 years, we donate to the Altman Foundation. It's local, it's close to home. We can actually pick where the money goes, what segment of the hospital that it goes to for art or food or wherever we want to put it. And it's something that we're just going to continue doing. I'm not going to stop, and you know, maybe we'll have 30 of them sometime. So it's awesome to see. Everybody supports it. Yeah, it's a good thing. The first doctor gave him, I think, as little as 6 months to live, and he fired him on the spot and said, I don't accept that. So I think that right there tells you enough of what kind of person he was. And just, you know, from that day, it was just, how are we beating this? He had a couple surgeries. Before his first surgery, they didn't know where he was. He went for a walk or whatever. And they found him running the steps of the hospital in his hospital gown, because in his mentality, he's training for fights, right? And then he was in a big fight. Who does that, right? Most of us would be in our hospital bed, you know, woe is me, why did this happen? And this dude is out running steps. So I think that speaks to the character. Those two stories are, you know, sums him up in a nutshell. You know, he was still very involved through all that. He did treatments, he did chemo here and there, and he always came up and down and came out of those rough situations, always with something positive. I'd never seen a more positive person in that situation. You know, like I said, we would probably be tucked away somewhere and we're not wanting to see people, and he was definitely not like that. And he would still come up here and visit. He did jiu-jitsu with a port in, his chemo port. He would do jiu-jitsu. Again, who does that? You're crazy, because if that port breaks, it's not. You know, he actually told us that. He's, you know, classes were a lot smaller then, but he circled us up and he's like, hey, I have this port in. He showed us, you know, and he's like, I'm gonna roll with you guys, but if it breaks, call the hospital or call the ambulance, you know, like, oh yeah. And then he's like, who wants to roll? Like, nobody wants to roll with you now. But that's the type of guy he was. He wasn't gonna stop. He was still kickboxing and doing stuff. I have a video of him and Stinson doing kickboxing. He has his port in. Just that was his mentality. And I was just telling somebody last week, he's the guy that would walk in that door and you'd see him and you want to be the first person to shake his hand, you know? So, yeah, that's Steve Hyman.